motherfuckers? It's the Hater, and it's time for episode 2 of the Wednesday Night Wars there, motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really watch AEW because my sling didn't record it. I realized this. I was watching NXT first, and I realized that once I got to like 1 hour and 43 minutes of NXT, that it stopped recording. I was able to finish NXT, but that meant that I wasn't able to watch AEW, unfortunately. However, I did read about, what's it called, the results of AEW. So we're going to talk about that. I mean, it doesn't seem like I missed out much, motherfucks. All right, so let's just do the AEW first, and then we'll do the NXT, because the whole point-by-point thing might not work very well, because I didn't take notes for AEW, so I don't know what the fuck these retards wrote. But first up in this mug, all right, we had Broken Matt and the Young Bucks versus Joey Janela and Private Party. Now, here's the problem with this, right? Obviously, Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks are going to win this match. You know what I mean? There is zero chance that Joey Janela and Private Party are going to win. Matt and the Young Bucks just came out off of like a pretty big victory, like a main event pay-per-view victory, and they're also way more established. So there is no reason why Private Party and Joey Janela would beat them. I mean, if this was like a team that had a shot or that was going to get a push, you know, it would make sense. But that's not what happened here. This is just a tag team and a third guy. So I don't like this setup at all. I mean, apparently the match was pretty decent, they say. But long story short, Butcher and Blade, who I thought were released, came out and attacked the Young Bucks. And in a pickup, apparently FTR, what the fuck is FTR? Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, motherfuckers, they made their long-awaited AEW debut. They saved the Young Bucks and had a stare down. Now, here's the problem with this. We all know this is going to happen, right? We all know that the quote-unquote, the dream match, which I can see why it's called the dream match, of Young Bucks and the Revival is going to happen. So this, like I don't know why they're being portrayed as, like, faces when either they're going to turn heel. Like, they're definitely going to turn heel at some point, you know what I mean? They might wrestle the Bucks and they're both faces, but they're both going to, the Revival is going to turn heel. So why not just jump the gun, make them heels, have them come in and destroy the Young Bucks, hit the Shatter Machine, and then just be like, yo, we're the best ones here, motherfuckers. Not you two motherfucks. Yep. So that's how I would have done it. I guess I want to do like a slow burn, so it is what it is. Then we had the debut of Brian Cage. Now here's the problem with this, motherfuckers. He debuted against some guy named Lee Johnson, who I think is the black guy, like the jobber that they've used a couple of times. Not Pineapple Pete, but the other jobber. The problem with this is this. This description that I read here, obviously Brian Cage won. I don't even think I need to explain that, right? The guy that wrote this like page of results, he says things like, well, Brian Cage is an undeniable like monster, an unstoppable machine, and I agree. Brian Cage is legit. You know, Brian Cage won with the drill claw finisher, and that's a cool move. He's got cool moves. Brian Cage is cool. Now, the problem with Brian Cage is that by no means is he an undefeatable guy, right? He's not this legit badass. I mean, maybe in real life he is, but all I know is before he came here, he lost to Tessa Blanchard, right? So the fact that Tessa Blanchard beat him, and the fact that he beat Lee Johnson means fucking zero to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty sure almost certainly in a real fight, Lee Johnson would destroy Tessa Blanchard, who is still, by the way, the TNA champ. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, it's like, dude, like the person who's still champion in TNA beat up this monster who now is aligned with Taz. And Taz apparently said something like, oh, you know, like survive if you can, and win if you can, and survive if he lets you, or some goofy shit like that, you know? Normally this would be cool, but here's why it's not. Number one, like I said, he lost to Tessa Blanchard. This is a problem, all right? Number two, Taz in this managerial, mentor role is not a good idea. You know what I'm saying? They tried doing this with Samoa Joe. They're like, oh, the career parallels are there. What career parallels? They like submission moves and suplexes? You know what I'm saying? Why is Taz a manager all of a sudden, you know? Like, I get it. Taz is badass, or he used to be at least. But come on, Taz, I don't understand this idea that, a mid-carder, right, becomes a manager. Same thing with MVP. At least with MVP, it's in his gimmick. You know, his gimmick is that he's this financially well-off guy who gets the big contracts. So you don't want to be aligned with him as a manager so you can get the same big contracts, right? Those are the implications. But MVP teaching Lashley how to be a main eventer is ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. You know what I'm saying? Why would Lashley listen to MVP? Like MVP never became world champion. Lashley wants to be a world champion. So there you go, motherfuckers. Same thing with Taz. It's like, why would Cage listen to Taz? Like, if you have someone like Jake the Snake Roberts, that makes a bit of sense, because at the very least, Jake Roberts was a guy who had some qualities that anyone would want, right? Like, he was amazing on the mic. He's charismatic and he's cool. 3 things that Lance Archer isn't. So, by attaching him to this, then it's like, all right, he's going to learn some things from Jake the Snake Roberts. It's clear that Lance Archer has a lot to learn, right? But in the context of Brian Cage and Taz, it's like Taz should be learning from Brian Cage. He should be learning better moves. He should be learning like how to be more athletic, right? He should be learning how to be a more successful wrestler. It doesn't make any sense. Like, Taz isn't this legend or anything like that. I know they want to portray him as a legend, but he's not. Let's be real, motherfuckers. And I like Taz, but that's what I got to say about that. Next up, we had Britt Baker come out, and she's starting an angle that appears with Aubrey Edwards, the referee, Aubrey Edwards. She blames her for the injury. I didn't even know she was injured. And over here in the page that I read, it says here, it starts off with Aubrey Edwards is a fantastic referee. Pause right there. Why is she a fantastic referee? What differentiates Aubrey Edwards from every other literally every other referee we've ever seen? You know what I mean? I don't like people are like, oh, this guy's a great referee. I don't have a great referee. I don't have favorite referees. There's no such thing. They all do the same job, and they all do it equally well. Like, there's not one referee who's like, this guy's a shitty referee. He doesn't do referee, spots well, right? Like, if I had to pick one that was my favorite, it would be Earl Hebner, only because, he was the one who put his body on the line the most, and he was the one that, had the most angles, you know what I mean? He had, a storyline presence, which is kind of what Aubrey Edwards does for AEW. But at the same time, it's like, Aubrey Edwards isn't established enough. The only reason why Earl Hebner is a little bit better is just because for 15 years, he was in 3 angles, Aubrey Edwards hasn't been in any angles. He's going to be in one now. Maybe that'll put her over a little bit. But the facts are what they are. People like Aubrey Edwards because she's a broad. And if you don't like her, you're a piece of shit because you're a sexist, right? Which is ridiculous. That's another story for another time. I made a whole video about that kind of shit, which I've been holding on to, which I'm going to release probably tomorrow, right? But, yeah, the whole argument that Aubrey Edwards is great is based entirely on the fact that she's the first female referee to have that level of a position. Now, am I saying that she sucks? Absolutely not. There's nothing about Aubrey Edwards that sucks. P.S. Power did a video last week or some shit where he talked about how Aubrey Edwards sucks, and I see his point. His point is that she's very animated and things like that, but he also in his video concedes that a lot of people like this apparently. I personally don't, right? P.S. Power, just like he said, I agree with that. The argument that the referee should be invisible. A good referee is one that you don't see, right? But in the context of referees are now characters and people have attached themselves to Aubrey Edwards, I get it. She's giving the fans what they want. So all right, but is she a fantastic referee? That's just a disingenuous statement. You know what I'm saying? There's no such thing, motherfuckers. It's kind of like saying, oh, this person is a fantastic ring bell, ringer. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck are you talking about? He just rings the bell. There's nothing there, ring announcers, okay, there you can start making arguments, right? Tony Chimmel, he introduced Edge in a very special way that was very distinctive, right? Justin Roberts is pretty good. Lillian Garcia is awesome. Howard Finkel has a great voice. You can start making some distinctions, right? But whether Mike Chioda or referee Tim White is the better referee is that's not even a debate. Nobody would debate that shit. So Aubrey Edwards, I have to say the reason I don't like her is because, in my opinion, she's overrated. Not because she's bad at her job, but just because her job is easy as shit and she's not fantastic at it. No one can be fantastic at that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing special there. Next up, following the trend of the post-coronavirus era, we have the third jobber match of the night. Out of 3 matches, all 3 of them have been jobber matches, right? The Private Party and Joe Janela are jobbers, and they lost like jobbers. Lee Johnson is a jobber, and this other broad, Christy, whatever her name was, Christy James, I don't know. Christy James is also a jobber. Hikaru Shida wins with the Falcon Arrow. It was what it was. I mean, who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed her match with Nyla Rose. I thought that was actually pretty good, all things considered. Nyla Rose has some pretty sick moves. I like the thing she does where, the opponent is, hanging on the ropes, and Nyla jumps from the top turnbuckle and knees them down. I think that's just, a vile move, and it's, awesome. So that's kind of cool. Cucky Rhodes comes out and issues an open challenge. This is a complete waste of time, only because right after that, not after that, but a little bit later in the night, They had a battle royal for a shot at the TNT championship. Make up your fucking minds. Is it going to be an open challenge or is there going to be a battle royal? Because if there's a battle royal, why the fuck would I want to participate in the battle royal? What do I gain from this? I gain absolutely nothing from being in this battle royal when I can just skip it and next week show up and be like, I'm here for the open challenge, motherfucks. You know what I'm saying? What's the point? And furthermore, shouldn't it be MJF who gets that shot? That's what it should be. MJF should be the one that automatically gets the first shot because he's the only one in the company, I think, that has beaten Cucky Rhodes. So, like, if you're the only one that's beaten Cucky, you should just come out and be like, hey, Cucky, it's me. Remember me? I embarrassed you. Give me a rematch. And then that actually might, I know it's a little early because they just had their feud, but that might actually set up another interesting feud where you just do the inverse, where Cucky Rhodes says to MJF, he says, you know what? Yeah, I'll give you a rematch if you get on your knees and let me lash you 10 times. Then you have MJF quit after the third lashing, right? And then Cody Rhodes is like, you're on, motherfucker. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just did it to, like, show you that you're not as tough as me. And then you have Cody beat him, simultaneously get his revenge, right? And there you go. It's not like MJF is going anywhere. He's busy wrestling Jungle Boy. Speaking of which, Jungle Boy eliminates the son of a gun. And then we have Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy as the last two men standing. In other words, you have the two worst wrestlers you could possibly have as the one of the two guys that's going to win and the other guy's going to lose. Jungle Boy wins. No one gives a rat's ass, right? Before that, we had SCU, which is like now transitioning to like a jobber tag team versus Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, right? Jimmy Havoc and Sabian win. Not one person cares. SCU is directionless. Like since they lost the titles, they had like a pseudo feud with the Dark Order, and all of a sudden we forgot about that. Like, why is that feud over? I mean, I get it. Harper beat Christopher Daniels, but there's no shame in having like Daniels and the rest of SCU have like a 6-man tag match, maybe a 6-man elimination match against like Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and like 10 or something, right? And like you just have a feud, you continue the feud, you make use of the Dark Order. And if Stu Grayson and Evil Uno aren't there for coronavirus reasons, then fuck it. Have them fight 8, 9, and 10. Take 3 jobbers, put masks on them, and then all of a sudden you have a story, right? Why would we like want to see Lee Johnson when we could see developments of a story, right? And of course, people like Brian Cage are going to win their first match. I don't think there's anyone that loses their first match. Anyone like in the history of wrestling, I don't think there's ever been a guy that's been introduced by name, right, or has had vignettes or has had any hype and lost his first match. The only example I can think of is Finlay, right? When I think he wrestled Matt Hardy when he debuted in WWE, he lost the match, but he only lost the match because like he DQ'd himself by beating the shit out of Matt Hardy, right? So like it still came off as like a victory. So I don't like this idea of just like having the monster debut and just beat a jobber. Like it's so overplayed that we all know what's gonna happen. So it gives a fuck. Then we had the Inner Circle pep rally. This sounds like it was a lot of fun. I don't like the jokes and all that stupid shit. Aside from Jericho, the other ones aren't really that funny. Especially like Jack Swagger. This guy is like just not very charismatic, unfortunately. So there's that. But the best part, based on what I'm reading here, is Jericho calls out the baddest man on the planet, motherfucks, Mike Tyson, right? And they get into like a little brawl. Interestingly enough, apparently Tyson had a posse, and amongst them was Henry Cejudo, which is pretty cool because Henry Cejudo, he's a little guy, he's a little twerp, but he's a good fighter, you know, and he's beaten a lot of high-profile motherfucks, you know. He's one of the only people to beat Demetrius Johnson, and he beat TJ Dillashaw while he was on steroids. He knocked him out. I think TJ Dillashaw and Cejudo would be a good rematch. I think TJ Dillashaw would beat him, but we'll see. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what happens when TJ comes back, if he's even around anymore. So that sounds kind of cool. I want to see where this goes. You know, like this sounds like a good closing segment because it makes me want to tune in next week. You know, like it makes me want to see if Mike Tyson, first of all, if Mike Tyson's even going to be there. You know, that's already awesome, right? The fact that Mike Tyson is back in the spotlight is sick. You know, it would be better if he was in WWE, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's move on to NXT where I took notes. Thus far, I will give the AEW show like a nice 6 out of 10. You know, it sounds like a pretty good show. The facts are what they are. They debuted Dash and Dawson, which is like, you know, it's noteworthy in and of itself. And Brian Cage debuted, quote unquote, right? And he won his match. He's always fun to watch. I like him. I don't like him as much now that he lost to Tessa Blanchard. And this is exactly like Booker T said it best on his little podcast thing, right? Booker T was like, yo, having Tessa Blanchard be the champion, good for her. However, every guy that she's beaten, right, is now below Tessa Blanchard, right? And furthermore, once Tessa Blanchard loses her title, right? Once she loses the title, everyone is going to be worse than the person that beat her for the title. And once she goes back to the women's division, she's going to win the women's title, I'm sure. And then she's going to lose it eventually. And whoever beats her for it, you know what I mean? Any other woman that beats Tessa Blanchard is automatically now, by the transitive property, better than Brian Cage. So when like Taya Valkyrie or some other jabron beats her, right? What's going to happen then? Are we to believe that Taya Valkyrie can beat the unstoppable Brian Cage? That's fucked up. It's stupid, motherfuckers. So NXT starts with a very solid match. Now, the only reason this match was good, I enjoyed the Kushida Drake Maverick match a lot more than I did this triple threat, right? Furthermore, because the point that needed to be made was made last week. That Drake Maverick is not done yet, motherfucks, right? So, in this match, they had this Jake Atlas, or whatever Atlas, I'm going to call him. This Atlas guy, I don't like him at all. Like, I don't see anything about him. Like, he just reminds me of Roberto Carrillo. Like, there's really no reason to have this guy on at all, right? They have a match. Atlas does this weird-ass, like, handstand DDT from the top turnbuckle that looked like shit. Long story short, the finish was good. Kushida does his top rope, like, corkscrew into the arm bar on Atlas. And as he's, like, making Atlas tap out, Atlas is covered by Drake Maverick because his shoulders are down, even though they're not. And he pins him 1, 2, 3. Now, here's the problem with this. Obviously, if Kushida has him in an armbar and his shoulders are down, why doesn't Kushida get the pin? You know what I mean? Like, that's the rules of wrestling, right? Like, if you remember any time in, like, a big, long match when someone puts the figure 4 on someone else, the other guy's in pain. And sometimes they, like, stay on their back because they're in pain, and the ref starts counting, and they, like, pop up their shoulders, right? To say, no, I'm not done. Because it's another form of, like, tapping out. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing here. It's the same fucking thing, man. It's just like when Cody Rhodes won a match, like, a few weeks ago with a figure 4, but he won it by pinning the guy, I think, right? So it's the same thing. Like, why does Drake Maverick's pin take precedence over Kushida's pin? Kushida's holding him down, too. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the armbar should be both a pin and a submission. So the other guy should be fighting to get out of the armbar while simultaneously fighting to get at least one shoulder up, right? So he doesn't get pinned. But that's not what happened. But it doesn't matter because Drake Maverick won, and that's what should have happened. I'm really hoping they go all the way with this and they make Drake Maverick win the title. It's unlikely because El Hijo de Fantasma is going to have his little cronies come in and like attack. But it'd be nice to see, you know? I don't understand why you're going to fire Drake Maverick, but simultaneously give him this like mini push. You know, what's the point? If you're going to fire him anyways, then why do you want to like somewhat bury Kushida and Atlas? You know, you're losing to a guy that got fired. Doesn't make any sense to me, motherfucks. So that happened. It was all right. Nothing to lose your mind over. Johnny Gargano fought a jobber. Gargano wins with a Gargano escape. He was like arrogant and annoying. The jobber was bigger than him, so I didn't really like it. It is what it is. Afterwards, Keith Lee and Mia Yim are having a dinner together at one of their apartments. You know what I mean? They just like talk shit basically to Gargano and Candice LeRae. Who cares? This feud, I don't like it. You know what I mean? Like Mia Yim versus Candice LeRae is tolerable, but Johnny Gargano versus Keith Lee is absurd. Keith Lee is like 15 times his size. Keith Lee should just like push him once, and that should be the end of that match. But it is what it is, you know? Then we had Imperium cutting a promo. The promo was very generic. They're basically like, we're the best. Walter isn't losing his shit. We're not losing our shit. This is cool. Now, it's not cool because of the promo. The promo was shit. It was like a generic promo. But if they eventually end up fighting Undisputed Era, this reignites the rivalry between Imperium and Undisputed Era, which Imperium won. You know, Imperium, like objectively speaking, they're one of the strongest booked units in wrestling today. You know what I mean? So it'd be cool if, like, I don't know, if let's say Alexander Wolf wins, like, he can't be a cruiserweight, but let's say he wins the North American title, or he wins some other jobber-ish title, right, where they all have it, right? If there were enough titles going around, you know, that'd be really awesome. Like, maybe you have Undisputed Era go to, like, England one time, and they win the NXT UK titles. You know, that'd be pretty cool. Just like you have, like, these two factions that have, like, 8 titles between them, and you just have a big-ass match again, you know? Maybe you save it for whatever War Games or something like that, whenever the fuck that happens, you know? Maybe not War Games, whatever, the Survivor Series one, who knows? So there you have it, motherfuckers. That was pretty cool. Shotzi Blackheart comes out. She's riding this little tank. You know, it's like one of those like kid cars, but she's riding it. It was pretty cool. I thought it was just like a nice way to make an entrance. And she lost to Raquel Gonzalez, who was like the enforcer type for Dakota Kai. I haven't seen Raquel Gonzalez in forever. I remember her at the last pay-per-view when she helped Dakota Kai win in a shitty-looking chokeslam to, what's her face? The other one, Tegan Knox. Yeah. Next, we had Io Shirai, who is my favorite female wrestler in the world, and Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte and a mystery partner. So this whole mystery partner thing needs to end immediately. It's always like some bullshit person, right? It's never someone great. I was like, maybe she pulls Beth Phoenix out of the announce booth, you know? But no, it was just Chelsea Green. Like, why does this have to be a mystery? Chelsea Green isn't mystery worthy. You know what I mean? She's like just a jobber. She's just another wrestler. So Chelsea Green and Charlotte win when Charlotte pins one of the broads by putting her feet on the rope. The match was all right. Nothing to beat yourself up over. Io Shirai didn't get to do the 619, which is like my favorite thing that in female wrestling. So that kind of sucked, but it is what it is. Then we had a Skype call between Regal and Adam Cole, right? Now here's the problem with this. I thought Adam Cole was supposed to have his like celebration. They addressed that a little bit, but long story short, Adam Cole makes some demands, and the conclusion of that is Adam Cole, motherfucks, versus what's his face? Versus that cuck. What the fuck's that guy's name, motherfucks? Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole. We already knew it was gonna happen. So it is what it is. I predict Velveteen Dream wins it, and Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era lose the rest of their matches for like these next few weeks. They don't get the tag titles. Then they're off TV for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, and then they just appear on SmackDown or some shit. I don't know, something like that, right? That would be nice. So there you go. Next up, we have another jobber match. Tommaso Ciampa versus Jobber, right? Tommaso Ciampa, like, the Jobber actually did pretty good. He reminded me of Rich Swann a little bit, right? Because he was lanky and just wore tights, like little underwear, you know, and he was really small and really quick. So, like, the Jobber did this, like, series of springboard moves. They were kind of botchy, but, like, it was still cool because, like, you didn't know what he was doing. You know, they were botchy, like, what the fuck's he doing? And eventually he just springboards off the top rope, the middle rope, and then the bottom rope, and just kind of, like, shoots backwards through the legs of Tommaso Ciampa. But that's about it. He turns around, Ciampa does a jumping, running knee, and picks him up, hits the fairy tale ending for the win, you know? Meanwhile, Scarlett comes out looking over the match, saying, like, you know, just pretty much trying to scare him, right? I don't get it. I don't even care anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kept hearing about how hot Scarlett was, and I remember her in ROH with Truth Martini, motherfucks, who was awesome. Truth Martini, and that other guy, I forget his name now. He was TV champion, Matt Taven, right? And she was one of the hoopla hotties, right? That was cool. She actually looked great. You know, she was like bubbly and cheerful, and that's like kind of her thing, right? You know, like that gimmick worked for her. Now she's like dark, mysterious, and wears black lipstick for some reason, and has her hair up in a bun. So I'm like, I don't even find her attractive. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Her face is like kind of jagged. I don't know, man. I didn't like this. Then we had Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher in a fight pit match. Now, I like this, but I only like parts of it. I like the fact that this is a new type of match. You know, it was an interesting type of match because there were no ropes. It was basically like a cage fight, but on top of the cage, they had these platforms that looked very much like tables, right? So there was a substantial platform on top of the cage where people could wrestle and not fall off unless they wanted to, right? That was awesome. You know, that's a cool little thing. It incentivizes going up there because it's safe enough where you can do it multiple times, and it's high enough where, like, cool shit can happen. You know what I mean? So I really enjoyed that, the fact that it was a new type of match. What I don't enjoy is Timothy Thatcher. I think Matt Riddle is great. Matt Riddle is charismatic. He's cool as fuck. He's he's incredibly athletic, right? He has amazing moves. Like, he does like high flying moves, striking moves, grappling moves, submission moves. He does the GTS better than CM Punk. He's just awesome. Matt Riddle is just great. Matt Riddle should be skyrocketed onto Raw and have like an Aleister Black type streak, but ultimately ending with him becoming champion. Timothy Thatcher, on the other hand, I don't have anything against the guy. You know, I get what he's going for, right? But the problem is, what separates him from Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch? They have the same exact gimmick, but for some reason, I'm to believe that Timothy Thatcher is better than them. He's a little bit bigger, and he's in like really good shape. Don't get me wrong, you know, I enjoy his type of wrestler, you know? Like when Butch and Bottom in AEW debuted, that's what I thought they would be. I thought they would be these two like motherfucks, you know, like these two guys that you don't want to fuck with because they're just rough dudes, right? They had like a bald spot, but with a cul-de-sac haircut. One of them had a monocle to suggest that he's like a little bit weirder than the other one, right? But it turned out they were just two assholes who are literally butchers. Like, I remember that time when MJF paid them off. They're in a butcher shop. And for some reason, whatever the fuck her name is, the girl that hangs out with them, the bunny, right? What's her name? Chelsea as well? I don't know. It might be Chelsea. I forget. Who cares, motherfuckers? She comes out as the bunny. Why is he the bunny? The butcher, the blade, and the bunny. More like the butch, the bottom, and the bitch. You understand what I'm saying? But it is what it is, right? So, like the match was good. Timothy Thatcher ended up winning. I didn't like, number one, that he won, but whatever. You know, it's not my place to determine who wins. But I don't like how he won, right? They ended up fighting on top of the cage. And after fighting a little bit, Matt Riddle misses a Broton, right? And then they fight. Riddle hits like a final flash, which is a knee to the face, which knocks Timothy Thatcher down on the little platform. And then he like tumbles over it, right? So he falls from a significant height. From there, I should say, Matt Riddle does like a corkscrew senton and lands it, right? He lands it. So I'm like, that should be it. But it wasn't it, right? Matt Riddle follows Oni Lorcan, I was going to call him. Let's just go with that. Follows Oni Lorcan, who's against the cage, and he starts doing like Daniel Bryan yes kicks on him, right? I'm like, all right, he's going to just beat the shit out of him with kicks, hit like the bro Derek, or get the bro mission in there, and that's going to be that. But that's not what happened at all, motherfucker. Do you know what happened instead? I'll tell you what happened. Fucking Timothy Thatcher no-sold all of this. He no-sold falling from the cage. He no-sold taking like a top of the cage move. And he no-sold getting kicked in the chest like 7 times. He just grabs the guy and smashes his head against the cage, right? And then puts on a rear naked choke. How many rear naked choke finishers do we need here? This guy's got a rear naked choke. Fucking Killer Cross has a shitty looking one. Samoa Joe has one. Everyone, Dean Ambrose has one. Get the fuck out of here. Come up with better moves, motherfucks. Right? How about the rock bottom? You know what I'm saying? A nice, powerful move. So then what happens is Matt Riddle's fighting off of it. Timothy Thatcher smashes his head against the beam of the cage, puts it on again. Matt Riddle slams him against the cage, and then he just dumps him like on his back. He just jumps and falls backwards. This allows Timothy Thatcher to like let go, but he quickly puts it on again and makes Matt Riddle pass out. Kurt Angle was the guest referee. This added virtually nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why Kurt Angle was fit to be guest referee in like essentially an MMA match, but whatever, it is what it is. It was cool to see Kurt Angle, except for the fact that when Kurt Angle came out, like the wrestlers that now surround the ring in NXT, they started chanting, "You suck," and Kurt Angle was doing his goofy ass like 2 fingers thing, you know, when he like pretty much said that he acknowledges the chants, but it's ridiculous. Like with the fans, you have to do it because the fans are a bunch of neckbeards who like continue this chant for like 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing, right? The wrestlers should have, like, in kayfabe, should have respect for Kurt Angle and should refuse on principle to do the "you suck" chant. That would make more sense, right? You know, like, Kurt Angle shouldn't be like, you like me too, ironically, because the "you suck" chant wasn't done because Kurt Angle was liked. It was done because he was hated. And then it just stuck because people are not smart enough to understand when it's appropriate to do something and when it's inappropriate to do something to make wrestling as good as possible. So there you have it, motherfucks. That was what happened in NXT. I also give NXT, I want to give it a 6, but I got to give it a 5. I mean, there was a lot here that I didn't like. You know what I mean? Like, generally, the NXT roster I don't like. You know, this is, like, in my opinion, the weakest NXT roster we've had maybe ever. Aside from Dexter Lumis and Velveteen Dream, no one has a gimmick. There's a few people like Keith Lee that don't need a gimmick just because he's Keith Lee, he's fucking huge, right? But beyond that, everyone else needs a gimmick. And they don't have one, motherfuckers. And they need to find one immediately. Because I can't just go out there and just watch people wrestle for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, Killer Cross hates Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa hates Killer Cross. No reason, right? No gimmicks to explain the reason. But I'm supposed to care. Adam Cole and the Undisputed Cucks have no gimmick either. They're supposed to be these, like, overconfident frat boys. But they're all about 125 pounds. Yeah, it's hard to take seriously. Like, where do you get this arrogance from? You see, why is Johnny Gargano beating up a jobber that's 3 times his size with arrogance, right? As if, like, of course he's going to win. Why of course he's going to win? He's been a jobber for the majority of his NXT run. You know, now everyone that's good left, so it's Johnny Gargano's turn. You know, when Bobby Roode was there and Drew McIntyre was there, he was a jobber. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about one little thing that I wanted to talk about. Cody Rhodes and the AEW, jobber mid-card title, right? I will say, if Cody Rhodes defends this title every week like he claims he will, that's good. But when I say every week, I mean just every week. Like, no exceptions. Like, no situations where Cody Rhodes doesn't defend it and instead is in a tag match. None of that shit. Every week, Cody Rhodes defends the TNT title, right? That's good. Make that a thing. Kind of like the 24/7 titles thing is that it's defended 24/7. The TNT title is defended once a night at 8 o'clock. The opening segment is the TNT title match. if you could do something like that in wrestling, that would turn heads. Because everyone will be like, well, at the very least, I know that this week, Cookie Rhodes is going to wrestle someone in an open challenge. Right? Just like the John Cena open challenges, which produced some of the best matches in Cena's career. You know what I mean? Like, I created that period of John. That was probably the best year of John Cena when he was U.S. champion. He had the best matches, and it set the tone for him having matches with people like AJ Styles, right? And it proved, like, conclusively that Cena's a great wrestler. Cookie Rhodes can do the same thing, motherfuckers. Cookie Rhodes can do the same thing. Now, we compared this to other mid-card titles, which are virtually meaningless. It doesn't fucking matter who is the IC champion. It doesn't matter who's the Cruiserweight champion. Like, they're doing a Cruiserweight tournament, right? It's like this intricate tournament following like World Cup format, right? It's this weird tournament to determine the interim champion, who will then have to fight like, whatever, Finn Balor #2 over NXT UK. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is that? I get it. He can't travel, so he can't defend his title. But come on, number one, this isn't MMA. And two, this doesn't merit this tournament to find the interim champion. That's stupid. That's dumb, motherfuckers. Are you dumb, stupid, or dumb? You know what I'm saying? So there you go. With that in mind, we have to also talk about the U.S. title. Apollo Crews won the U.S. title. Now, I like Apollo Crews, and I was happy to see his little push. But let's get it straight, motherfuckers. While I'm happy for Apollo Crews becoming U.S. champion, I have to say this. It is a bad decision. And the reason why it's a bad decision is because everyone knows that this title is not going to elevate Apollo Crews in any way, shape, or form. This is like when R-Truth won the U.S. title from like Rusev or Nakamura or something, right? It means fucking nothing. The mid-card title is so useless and so irrelevant that there is no point in having it. No one benefits from having it. Back in the day, having the IC title meant one of two things. You were a high-profile wrestler, right? You were like the number 3 guy in the company, arguably. You know, like number 3, number 4, maybe. Like, you had Stone Cold, The Rock, Kane, like, out of all the main eventers, right? After that, it was you. It was Val Venus. It was Rikishi. Whoever the fuck it was. You were that guy. Now, it means nothing. Like, are we to believe that Apollo Crews is one of the top 10 guys in WWE? Absolutely not. Nakamura neither. Nor Sami Zayn. None of these guys are all jobbers. Like, it feels like the European title more than it does like the IC title or the US title. You know, we went from like champions like Benoit and Kurt Angle and Booker T to Apollo Crews. You know, again, nothing against Apollo Crews. I like the kid. But my point is this. You cannot dilute this title so much so that it means nothing. You know, that's why I'm hoping to see Cookie Rhodes do a good job with the TNT title so we can bring mid-card wrestling back to the forefront. Mid-card wrestling is the middle class of wrestling. It's like, just like the middle class is important to the economy, the mid-card scene is incredibly important to wrestling, right? Back when Randy Orton became champion, right? He was champion for like a million years. You knew that this title shot and this title reign meant that Randy Orton was being groomed and destined for bigger and better things. You know what I mean? When Dean Ambrose won the U.S. title, that kind of had the same implications. You were like, all right, this guy is going to be the one that pulls away from the Shield first, it looks like. The other two are tag team champions. You would assume that Rollins and Ambrose would be the tag team because they're more like tag team oriented, right? But no, it was Rollins and Reigns, and Ambrose was like this de facto leader that came up. You know, obviously that turned out to be nothing. Once the Shield ended, Dean Ambrose just went downhill forever. But it felt like a big deal. It felt like, oh, this guy has been established. He just beat Kofi Kingston clean, right? Whooped his ass, became the champ. In conjunction with the Shield doing all that they were doing, and even beating like The Undertaker in a 6-man match, right? The writing was on the wall. The Shield was going to be big time. The writing was on the wall. Orton was going to be big time. The writing was on the wall. When Edge won the IC title, you're like, shit, this is going to happen. Edge's push is coming. It came a little later, but it came nonetheless, right? Nowadays, it means nothing. It's completely reasonable for someone to be Intercontinental Champion or US Champion and then end up in the undercard. Like, next WrestleMania, Apollo Crews isn't going to have a singles match. Apollo Crews is going to be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal or some other horseshit pre-show match. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the problem. The problem is you cannot dilute it so much. It has to mean something, right? The way that I would fix it is I would have a wrestler, right? You just introduce a new wrestler. You pick one from NXT, let's say. Maybe Adam Cole, right? You pick up Adam Cole and you say, look, motherfucks, I'm here now on Raw. I intend on capturing the Intercontinental title. Then I intend on going to SmackDown, capturing the US title, holding them simultaneously, and restoring honor to these prestigious titles by defending them consistently and continuously winning my matches, while I also do other things. That's an important element of the mid-card champion, right? Now, I understand Cookie Rhodes can't do that because he said he's going to defend it every week. But maybe he can defend it at the beginning of the show, and then later in the show, he can have a segment or something, right? Which sets up a feud for the TNT title, right? For the pay-per-views and things like that. You can do things. There's things you can do. You know what I mean? But the Intercontinental and US champion should never be satisfied with being Intercontinental champion. This should be seen always as a stepping stone. Not as like, I did it, mom and dad. I became the Intercontinental champion. Who the fuck cares? You're going to be a jobber in a few years anyways, you know? So with that being said, motherfucks, that's all I got for you with this video. I guess if I had to choose, AEW wins this one by a margin. But I didn't really see it. So it's unfair for me to say that. But NXT was very bland. Like last week's NXT was way better than this week's NXT. So I have to stick with that. So now the score is AEW 1, NXT 1, motherfucker.